Well, good morning or good afternoon, as it is out here in my private secret lair, someplace on the East Coast. So I look out the window right now, you can see snow and sleet and snow and sleet with a little wind thrown in every now and then. My name is Richard Talbot. I am a leadership and business coach, trainer, and public speaker, and it's good to have you with me again today. I am so glad that you're here. I want to thank you for watching, whether it's live or on replay, and I hope that the next 60 minutes or so, maybe longer, maybe less, is a time for you to enjoy and that you do appreciate and learn a few things. Today we're going to talk about leadership as the daily long-term process. Leadership, the daily long-term process. Before we get started, I have dressed a little warmer than normal just because it is a little chilly and a little cold outside. And like I said, I'm looking around and listening to the sleet hit the air and hit the windows and the ceiling, or the roof, I should say, not the ceiling, but the roof. And also just kind of relaxing, drinking, per usual, my cup of coffee that I always carry with me. Again, for those of you, this is your first time, I am located somewhere on the East Coast in a state that calls itself Tar Heels. We're in the midst of our first real winter snowstorm. We're under a severe winter storm warning, I think until 6 o'clock tomorrow, which is Saturday, the 23rd of January. We'll be underneath that. So if you're in a place that's also cold or experiencing a storm, I ask that you grab your coffee or whatever your favorite warm beverage is at this time of year. Sit back and enjoy our time as we discuss, again, another aspect of leadership. Leadership as the daily, long-term process. Because leadership develops in a daily basis, not just a day. We all live in a microwave society, microwave world, where we want things done now. We don't want to wait for it. We don't want to delay gratification of any type. But when it comes to developing leadership, especially within ourselves, we need to take the daily, long-term view of leadership. It's a long-term process that takes place day after day after day. So as we talk about it, we're going to talk about a few phases of leadership and share about 5 of those with you. First phase of leadership is people who really don't know what they don't know. I don't know what I don't know. We all can sit and think about areas in our lives that, well, we probably just don't know. If we knew about them, we may think about them a little bit. But if we sit back and just, contemplate the world around us and even our own world at times, we can see that, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know about what I don't know about. And that may sound like an obvious, keen sense of the obvious type of situation. But in reality, it's an important thing to remember. We don't know everything. We'd like to. We may want to. We may wish we knew everything, but we don't. So we don't know what we don't know. The second phase of leadership is I know that I need to know. There's some things that I do need to learn about. I do need to understand. And so I need to know what I need to know. I'm known for having a trivial mind, so to speak. I love playing Trivial Pursuit, trivia games, throwing out little bits of information here and there. My family many times gets very tired of hearing my trivial information that I'll throw in the middle of a conversation, and they just kind of look at me like, where did that come from? But there's some things I do really need to know. I do need to know how to pay my bills. I do need to know how to take care of my body and my health, even if I don't do it well all the time. I do need to know what's important to my family, members in my family, so I can please them, make them happy, remember their birthdays. I do need to know things that are important to help me grow as an individual and in my business, in my profession. I do need to know those things. And so because of that, there are some things I know that I need to know. I may not know them yet, but I know I need to know. The third phase of leadership is I know what I don't know. I think a lot of us kind of fall under this category at times. We know what we don't know. Let me try to rephrase that again, because it can sound confusing as I take a sip of my hot coffee here. And again, for those of you, this is your first time, I am not addicted to my coffee at all. I just refuse to give it up. So I'm fine. Of course, it helps if I open the lid. I know what I don't know. That is where your plan and your focus of growth comes in. When you realize that there's areas in your life that you don't know and that you need to learn, especially when it comes to areas of your personal growth and your professional and your business growth, then to me, that's the first step of growing. You can live in the world where I don't know what I don't know, and you just kind of go through life ignorant. And a lot of people like to do that. Just, don't bug me. Don't confuse me with the facts or with the ability to learn or to knowledge anything. Just let me go. Then there's those I know what that I do need to know. And they're still in, I don't want to call it that naive, ignorant stage, but they're in a stage there where they can see that there are things that they do need to know. But that doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to do anything about it. This third phase, I know what I don't know, is where your specific growth plan begins. This is where you start planning for your growth. Do you need to learn more about self-control? I know I need to know it, I just don't know how to implement it. Well, that's the beginning of your plan. Do you need to know about how to build your client base? Well, I know I need a client base, and I know I need to grow. So yeah, I need to know that, but I don't know how to do that. Do you know that you need to develop your leadership skills better? Because you're in a position not only of leadership based on, again, defining leadership as influence, the ability to influence others, nothing more, nothing less. So you have influence with other people, but you just don't know how to develop that and use it to the best of its own ability and your ability. Well, that's part of your plan for growth. Part of what I'm doing on these blabs, I hope, is helping you think about areas that you may need to grow, ways that you may need to grow, and giving you some suggestions on how to implement those growth plans. So if you're at this stage, I know what I don't know. Great. Congratulations. You're probably at a stage where a lot of people have not been, or haven't been for a while, or refuse to go. You admit that there's a need. You acknowledge that there's a need in your life, or in your business, or in your profession, in your career. And you want to do something about it. Great. That means you're beginning your growth plan. So way to go. The next stage of the 5 phases of leadership, after you realize that you do have a place that you need to grow, you may not know exactly how to, but you begin to learn about how to grow. That's the phase of I know and grow, which then begs the question, does it show? No, I'm not a poet at heart. I'm not a Dr. Seuss. I'm not even a good Longfellow, even though my feet are long. But I guess the question really is, now that I know, and now that I'm learning what I need to know, am I growing? And as I'm growing, does that growth show in my life? Whether it's in my personal life, or whether it's in my business life, or with my career, whatever you're doing. I know and I grow. Now I need it to show. And frankly, it's at this stage, I know and I grow, that I need it to show, is the daily long-term process begins to kick in. John Maxwell, who I consider a mentor of mine, I read a lot of his books, I'm a part of his team, I'm honored to be part of his team. As he put it in one of his books, growth is a series of daily, this is my paraphrase, growth is a daily series of small changes. Small changes that take place day after day ultimately become big results down the road. In other words, it's what you do day after day after day that impacts the long term of your life. It impacts the long term of your business. It impacts the long term of your relationships. It impacts the long term of everything that you do and want to be and want to become. That's part of the daily, that is the daily long-term process. You may be sitting there right now and wondering, okay, there are things I know I don't know, which is the beginning of your plan. And I'm learning them now. I'm studying, I'm reading books, I'm on different blabs, I'm watching people, I'm listening to people, I'm interacting with people, I'm found myself a mentor to follow even from a distance. I have a coach that I work with on a weekly or monthly basis, somebody that I hold, that holds me accountable, that I listen to and I work with. You may have all that, but it's the daily choices that each one of them make that impact the long term. You know, I'd like to lose some weight. I know it's hard to tell on Blab. I look so svelte and I'm, overall good looking, even without the hair. But I do need to lose some weight. Is it realistic of me to start on Monday? Because after all, it is a snow weekend, and snow weekends require a lot of hot chocolate and a lot of coffee and a lot of sweets and candies and snacks. I mean, that's just the nature of the snow weekend. Who am I to argue with the nature of the snow weekend? But would it be realistic of me Monday morning to go, it's time for me to lose some weight. I want to lose 20 pounds. I should have it lost by Monday evening. Is that realistic? Is it realistic to be able to say, I can lose all my weight in one day? Minus surgery, minus getting really ill, minus exercising for 15 hours at a rate and, becoming bulimic or whatever. I mean, we can go into extremes and we're not going to do that here. But just by making that decision, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in one day, I can do that. No. If you had said that to yourself, or if you had heard me say that to you, or if someone else had ever said that to you, I'm going to do such and such a thing in one day, and it's a big thing, you'd probably look at it and go, and then out loud you may say, I hope so, but I don't think so. Inside you may be going, You're a little bubble off there. I'm not quite sure that you understand what you're getting into. That does happen. Well, the same way comes with developing leadership. It's a daily, long-term process. So if I really wanted to lose 20 pounds and I wanted to start on Monday because of the winter weekend, the snow break weekend that we have going on here, instead of trying to lose 20 pounds, how about if I cut out a between meal snack and replace that snack with maybe a walk around the block? One snack removed and replaced with one walk. Do you think that will make a difference in the short term? No, it won't. Will it make a difference in 2 days? Probably not. But would it make a difference in 2 months? Probably. It's those small daily things that we do that make a difference in the long term. What's the last book you've read? How long ago was it? What book was it? First question was the title. Second question was, how long ago did you ask the question or read the book? The third question is about, what was the book about? If you haven't read a book in a while, why don't you pick up a book and read just one chapter a day and apply that one chapter to that day? Just one chapter, maybe a chapter a week, and apply that chapter for that week. A book about leadership, about, like Stephen Covey's 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. A John Maxwell book on significant living, or 15 invaluable laws for growth, or what this blab is based on is 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. One chapter for 1 week and apply it. The first couple of days, you may not think anything was going on and much was happening in your life. But I submit to you that within a month, within 30, 60, maybe even 90 days, you'll start seeing changes occurring in your life. As a business person and you're struggling with your sales, instead of spending 15 minutes on a day, every day, doing paperwork that, while you may have to do it, you may not want to do it. But if you're struggling on your sales, instead of doing the 15 minutes a day on your paperwork, why don't you spend that 15 minutes making one phone call to a potential client, one email follow-up to someone you've already talked to but did not get the sale. That one plan and implement it that you've been fighting with but wanting to do. Maybe it's writing a blog. Maybe it's updating your Twitter or Facebook account. Creating ways to reach out to your people. Try it. You may not notice a difference right away, but I submit to you that eventually that one little change is going to show somewhere in your life and in your business and your relationship, wherever you want it to be. Instead of taking 15 minutes and watching a TV show, take 15 minutes and ask your significant other an important question, like, how was your day? What are you thinking about? What do you dream about? Do that every day, just that one small thing. And you'll be surprised as you grow what begins to show. The final phase of leadership is I simply go because of what I know. I simply go with what I know. In other words, the time will never be perfect. When I started my business, self-employed business, the time was not perfect. The time was not perfect. In fact, looking back on my life, there were times that would have been more perfect than when I did it. I just moved to a new area of the country, knew very few people, and yet I was going to start a business. Sometimes it's simply time to go, to do, to act, to move because of what I know instead of waiting any longer. An author and someone also affiliated with the John Maxwell team, and this is not meant to be a commercial for the John Maxwell team, so I'm not in the business of doing that. But there's a commercial author, his name's Paul Martinelli. And he makes this statement quite a bit, and I like it. So I want to share it with you. His statement is, sometimes you have to jump and grow your wings on the way down. Now, I don't know about you, but the idea of jumping and growing my wings on the way down is not all that comforting. You know, if I wanted to lose 20 pounds, my first thought is, are my wings ever going to be big enough and strong enough to handle my jump? Yet, there's something to be said for just go do. Nike did a great advertising campaign based on the phrase, just do it. Just do it. So take what you know, take what you're learning, and simply go and do it. And this kind of goes back to the phase of leadership, number 4, I should say, which is I know and grow, and it starts to show. The more you know, the more you apply, the more you grow, then consequently, the more it will show and other people will notice it as well. And above all, if you track it, you will notice it. Many times, I think, because we don't see the immediate effects of our changes, of our decisions. We don't see the immediate effects of the things that we're doing to grow ourselves. We don't think anything's happening. I think other people see much quicker than we do. Do you have someone in your life or a group of people in your life that would tell you if they see a change occurring? Last week, we talked about how you are the average of the 5 closest people and the sum of those 5 closest people in your life. You are the average and you are the sum. So this week, I want to ask you, any of those 5 people that are closest to you in your life, do they have the ability and the desire and the permission from you to tell you when they see change, positive and negative? You see, the daily long-term process for growth can be a positive and a negative experience. It depends on what you're daily changing. Are you, instead of removing that one between meal snack and walking around the block, are you instead adding a second between meal snack and going to bed and napping instead of doing anything? You're changing. In the short term, it may not impact you, but in the long term, it's going to. So this daily long-term process that we're talking about can be used for good or for evil, my young Skywalker. You can use it for good or for evil. for positive or to take away. The assumption I'm making is that you're going to want to do it in a positive way. That's the assumption of all my blabs. That's the assumption of my coaching, my training, my speaking. That's the assumptions I make, is that you want to take information, whether I present it or I give you information that other people have come up with that in a lot of ways is obviously better than me, and you apply it in a positive sense. You want to make a positive change. So again, I ask you, those 5 people that you are the sum thereof, and those same 5 people that you're also the average thereof, they're the closest people in your life. Do they have the ability? Do they have the desire? And have you given them permission to call you on change? To call out the good change and to warn you about the bad? I hope so. Do you have a coach that you meet with weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, whenever, who will call on you and point out the positives and the negatives of the changes that is occurring in your life? I hope so. I hope so. Life is not meant to be lived alone. Life is so much better to be lived in a community, and not in a sense of a commune or in a close-knit group, but in a sense of allowing ourselves to be touched by others and to touch others. What you want to do is work on a process that will lift you and lift your lid. 2 weeks ago on my very first blab, I hope you've seen the replay. Excellent coffee this afternoon, I should say, in this snow day. But in that very first blab, we talked about blowing your top, how you need to lift your lid. You need to move from here to here. You need to move from a 4 to a 5, or from a 5 to a 6. You need to keep pushing yourself. And so, it goes back to my question about books. What are you doing right now to build yourself into a great leader? What are you doing right now to change on a daily basis and to make it a long-term effect? What are you reading? Are you involved in a seminar or in a mastermind or in a small group? Are you going to I'm a person of faith, and so are you going to your place of faith and learning, not just on Sunday morning, but do you go to the Sunday school or to the educational programs? Are you involved on the midweek stuff? Are you involved with people's lives outside of just for that hour on Sunday morning or Saturday or whenever you go? And probably the big question, at least it is for me in my life, the big question is, what are you willing to sacrifice to reach that goal? Going back to my earlier example about losing 20 pounds, am I willing to sacrifice that one between meal snack and replace it with a walk around the block? If I am, then I'm going to see a change. If I'm not, then I'm not going to change. Now, that may seem like a small sacrifice, and in a lot of ways, it is a small sacrifice. However, each one of us has to make that sacrifice. Excuse me. I almost sneezed on that one. I guess talking about sacrifices really hits close to home because I want to sneeze and change the subject. But that's really what it's about. John Maxwell in his book also says you have to give up to get up. You have to give up to grow up. sometimes taking that risk of giving something up is not all that easy. We can come up with a lot of excuses and rationale as to why we can't ... I can't give up that snack. I can't go for that walk around the block because, well, it's cold out. It's hot out. It's too wet. It's too dry. The block's too long. There's a dog about 3/4 of the way around the block that scares me. There's a cat that follows me and it's black and it makes me very nervous. There's a lot of excuses that we can make. That afternoon snack has been a habit of mine since my grandfather taught it to me. We've always done a family afternoon snack or a mid-morning snack. That's just what we do. I can't give that up. So what are you doing right now to build yourself into a great leader? What are you reading that's challenging you? What seminar or class or mastermind or coaching relationship are you in, or mentoring relationship are you in that's making a difference? And what are you giving up? What are you giving up to reach your goal? I'm not talking about the big stuff. Again, the title of this blab is The Daily Long-Term Process. It's the small stuff, day after day after day, that makes the big, big difference down the road. So, I'm not asking you to give up your car, your retirement. I'm not asking you to give up anything major. What I'm asking is, what little sacrifice are you willing to make now that will make a difference in the long run? You know, ultimately, the secret of our success when we're dealing with the daily long-term process is our daily agenda. The stuff that we do and that we schedule day after day. You know, I do have an agenda book, a little calendar book that I keep. It's not all that little. In fact, I have it right here. This is it. See how big it is? I can hide behind it. That way you don't have to see me. It's got my schedule on a month and a daily basis. I've got notes in here. I got stuff to put in here. I know it's hard to believe that I don't have an electronic scheduler, but I don't. I'm still old-fashioned. I like to write it down. It helps me remember. I carry that with me almost everywhere I go. And it's in that daily agenda I write down the things that I need to do, the people I need to meet with, the places I need to be at each and every day. But if you were to look at it, you'd see whole gaps in my day. That's because what I write down in there are the things that are out of the norm. I don't write down when I wake up and when I go to bed. I don't write down every time I brush my teeth or when I have my meals. I don't write down when my shower and shave time is. I don't write that stuff down in there. Maybe I should. And some people would tell you, you should. But what I write in there are the things that I don't normally do. I want to challenge you and me on this. My challenge is that you, in your daily agenda, write down the small change that you're making that day. Make it part of your schedule. Going back to that mid-afternoon or mid-morning snack that we talked about with me losing 20 pounds. If that snack occurs at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I always do it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or 2:45 to 3:15, depending on what's going on, then in my agenda, in my calendar, I need to write down at 3 o'clock, walk around the block. Walk around the block. Because I'm giving up my mid-afternoon snack and replacing it with a walk around the block. And so schedule it. You see, one thing we didn't talk about when we talked about sacrificing, what are you willing to give up to succeed on where you want to be, to where you want to go, to do what you want to do, is that nature does not allow a vacuum. You empty something out, something's going to fill it. Something is going to fill it. So when you make that decision to make that one small little change, the change of giving up that afternoon snack, for instance, or the change I'll never make, which is giving up my coffee. And for the record, it is decaf. I had to give up regular coffee. So I just drink decaf now. And it's still just as good. Try it. But when you make a change like that, you have to fill it. You have to fill it. You can't leave it blank. Because it's a vacuum then that's formed, and the first thing a vacuum wants to do is suck back in what it took out. So if I decide to give up my afternoon snack and take a walk around the block, and I don't take that walk around the block, eventually I'm going to take that snack back. I really am. And you know you will too. So the secret for our leadership success is really in our daily agenda. What are you putting into your agenda that helps you change? If you're going to start a new book and read it, are you going to put that in your agenda? I hope so. You've decided at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday evening, you're going to read a chapter and apply it for the week, or on a Sunday evening. Let's say Sunday evening. Sunday evening, 8 o'clock, you're going to read a chapter of a book. And then for the next 7 days, you're going to apply that. Put that into your calendar and your agenda. 8 o'clock Sunday, read one chapter. And then hold yourself to it. Because you're giving up whatever you were doing, whether it's TV time or early bedtime or whatever. And you're replacing it now with a book, a chapter to read. Put that in your agenda. Put that in your agenda. Earlier, I talked about asking questions of your significant other, like, how was your day? What are you thinking about? What are you dreaming about? What do you wish for? What can I do to help you? And if you're sitting there going, I don't do that, then schedule. Put it into your agenda. Because eventually, after it's in your agenda for a while, you don't have to put it in there anymore, because it's going to be who you are. It's what you automatically do on Sunday evening at 8 o'clock is you grab a book and read a chapter. You may have to remind yourself the first 4 weeks to 8 weeks maybe. Oh, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. But eventually, it becomes such a habit that you don't have to put that into your agenda anymore. You may have to put into your agenda to ask the questions of your significant other or your loved ones. And they may look at you funny when you start asking. I don't think there's anything wrong by saying, I want to change, and this is one area of my life I want to change, is how I interact with you. They're going to watch. They'll let you know if they see that change, but eventually it won't be in your agenda to ask those questions at that time. Eventually it becomes such a part of who you are and what you do that you'll do it automatically. And I don't know about you, but to me, it's the automatic stuff that trips me up and helps me up. It's the stuff that I do without thinking. The stuff I do non-premeditated. The stuff that I do out of habit and being oblivious to the world around me that trip me up. And I would suspect it's the same with you. It may trip you up, those things. So we need to be intentional about what we do and how we do it and why we do what we do. So put it into your agenda. I don't know about you, but these types of times where you get to kind of evaluate where you're at, while they can at times make you feel sad or like you've lost something or you're missing something, for me, a lot of times they make me feel good. Why? Going back to the 5 phases of leadership. Number 2, I know that I need to know. I need to learn. And I know what I don't know, so I need to develop a plan for it. Number 3. And number 4, I know and grow and it begins to show, are all times to celebrate. We don't celebrate the big events enough. And for sure, we don't celebrate the small ones. You know, our big events of birthdays or anniversaries, holidays, we may celebrate fairly well. But the small events, the losing of the 1 pound towards the 20, the losing of the afternoon snack with the walk around the block, the under realization that there's so much more to learn, and what I've been learning is making a difference in my life and the life of others. Those seem small in some ways, but it's okay to celebrate them. And we need to celebrate them. And then finally, the last phase of leadership, I simply go because of what I know. Don't start big. Dream big, but take the small step. Dream big of where you want to be in the long term. Then take the small daily process step. You can do it. It won't be easy. If it was, everybody would do it. It will be tedious at times. You may get bored and you may get tired and you may get frustrated and you may wonder why. But do it. I know and I grow and it starts to show, and I simply go because of what I know. Grow those wings. Flap them. They will carry you farther than you think. They really will. Thank you so much for joining me today on the daily long-term process. I hope it's helped you as it helped me. And we will be back, or I will be back. I don't know, there's no we here. I'm kind of by myself. I will be back next Friday at 2 o'clock, same bat time, same bat channel, as we talk about the next aspect of leadership, email me, Twitter me, Facebook, like my page, Richard D. Talbot on Facebook. It's the business page. Like it. You'll receive something from me every day. I'm on LinkedIn. Connect with me if we're not connected. I'm on Twitter at Richard D. Talbot. Say hi, send me a message. Watch my blabs. Give me feedback. I welcome it. I really do. That's how I learn. That's how I grow. And that's how I continue to go based on what I know. Have yourself a good day. Stay warm, stay dry, stay cool, depending on wherever you're at. May this coming week be a week that you start the daily, long-term process of personal, professional, business, relational, leadership growth. Bye.